was obviously the removal of the interchange, but also shifted the Hillcrest connector bridge closer to its existing location and flipped the roundabout to the opposite side of 240. They did several things to improve the project. It allowed us to lower the grade through that entire area, eliminated many of the impacts at Hill Street, but also shortened the Hillcrest Bridge, which we'll look at the funding available for that, and combined the pedestrian structure with the roadway structure in that location. Same width is still provided as far as the 14-foot multi-use path, but it's on a combined structure now. The other change that I wanted to highlight specific to the pedestrian structure on our reductions that is related to funding is at Haywood Road. You can see here through the process of O&R, one of the things that we did that affects really all of the project, but we reduced the shoulder widths from 14 foot to 10 foot. We also reduced capacity for the through lanes on I-26 across the French Broad River, which also allowed the footprint here to be further reduced. You can see in the old design versus the new, not a too significant of a difference, but it is approximately, the bridge itself is approximately 12% shorter. So when you apply that to some of the costs and aesthetic betterments of the Haywood Road Bridge, there's some money available there too. The other change that I want to mention, and then we'll look at some numbers, is associated to the Bowling bridges. And this is not a specific O&R change, but it is a change that happened after the presentation of the council. The cage, if you're familiar with the Bowling Bridge now, after the structural design of that was completed, as far as to remove the cage and restore the deck for the multi-use path, the width of that multi-use path was narrowed slightly by about 4 feet. It's still 20 foot wide on that side of the bridge, but that did allow us to recoup some of the committed funding to the concrete stamping, where those basically the overhangs of that bridge won't support additional deck, so we had to pull it in, and that freed up some additional money as well. Let me get to some of the dollar figures associated with that and kind of give you an idea of estimation of where we are. So if we look at each of those aspects we just looked at from a Bowling Bridge standpoint, it's roughly about a 12% reduction in cost. The way we figured these numbers is the other thing that's happened since the council approved the funding amount is a significant inflation of those things. So what we tried to do is accommodate that in the going back and comparing it dollars to dollars to that snapshot in time to make funding available. So we took the agreed amount at 1.675 million, apply the reduction based off the decreased width of Bowling bridges, and it's 195,000 and some change there. The Haywood Road area, the shortening of the bridge freed up some available funds in the slate treatment rail and the sidewalk there. That amounts to about $60,000. In Hill Street and the I-240 pedestrian bridges, the lighting and the shortening of the bridge there amount to about $150,000. So total, from an estimated standpoint, and we're continuing to look at other areas, but we expect available funding out of the initial agreement to be about $400,000. Any questions there?
And that's in today dollars.
It's in today dollars.
Okay.
The other note that I'll make as we go through this effort through the next several months is we have internally reached out to our leadership based off understanding of the situation to try and see where else there's a lot of betterments that were associated with the pedestrian bridge that the DOT was covering those costs. And we're talking to our leadership about the potential of adding those costs savings to this effort as well. From the perspective of our leadership, I think their expectation is that the committee, through these series of meetings, comes up with some ideas that you'd like us to pursue. Our team will come up with estimates of those, and from there, we will submit those to our leadership to see if any additional funding can be available from DOT. This is the 400,000.
I do have a question.
Sure.
What was the inflation rate that was applied to the added costs?
Well, and I guess what I mean by that is we didn't imply an inflation rate. We just went back and took the snapshot of time.
Okay.
So we didn't devalue the commitment that was made by council. So we tried to use, because our bid prices are higher than the estimate that was approved by council. But rather than do it by comparing those two numbers, we've just done it from a percentage decrease of the money that was committed and that snapshot of time.
We really appreciate that. That's very helpful for us.
And we will continue to look for other opportunities. I know we're continuing to evaluate these things. We want to try and maximize the available funding for this effort as much as we can. So, but that's kind of a snapshot starting point for what's available currently in those three areas of the project. But we'll continue to have discussions about additional funding sources. I think for us as a department and our leadership, the more as the committee comes up with ideas and we start to assign values to what you want, it'll be a little bit easier to make those pitches to our leadership of additional things to potentially fund out of our contingency.
That's good to hear. Very, very good to hear. And I thank you. I know some of the ideas that I have that I'll introduce as we go along are things that basically, asking NCDOT to do some things that they had done in other places and absorb the cost. So maybe that will make it easier to dovetail those items into NCDOT cost savings.
And I think that's our hope, and that's what we're committed to doing through this process. Is concurrent to other efforts as we continue to work with the community and evaluate alternatives. But it's important for us from a schedule perspective that we continue to pursue this.
Yes.
While we concurrently do those other things, and then we want to be able to support it with as much funding as possible. Again, through the contingency that we have for overruns and those kind of things, and also looking at the betterments that DOT was already covering and then historically has covered other places.
I've got a question that doesn't relate specifically to the cost, but I remember and looking at the video again today from the April 24th public information meeting, there was a discussion or a comment about lowering the grade of Patton Avenue.
Sure.
The sketch or the visualization that you share with us, looking under the bridge to the east toward the city, is that reflected in that grade change? And how much of a grade change is there in terms of elevation?
So Patton itself is pretty much existing grade at this point. Okay. So there's not a significant change there. Yeah. I believe, and I don't know which video you're referring to, but the main grade change for Archer Wright's design is 26 as it crosses the Fritchburg River. Is considerably lower. The Patton itself is pretty consistent with the existing grade.
Yeah. Now, what I was looking at is this image here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this reflects based on the grade, the final grade of Patton Avenue.
It's very close to what Patton is
underneath the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. Because there's some grade changes in there now that affect what you see as you go from basically from the entrance to shopping center towards the city. It goes up and down. It's a very slight change, but it significantly affects what you see as you look down.
You're talking about the existing grade changes.
Existing grade, yeah. Right.
Is anybody from RK&K on that could speak to this as well? I'll pull up the.
I'm here, Nathan. It's Jeremy Keene. Can you hear me okay?
Jeremy, do you want to answer that, or you want me to?
No, you can go ahead.
So we can have the team chime in, the designers there, but there's a level of kind of from a design standard that will be that grade adjusted to a straighter grade.
Yeah.
But from an elevation standpoint, I think it's generally, and I don't know if Mike, if you could share a profile of Patton, maybe might be helpful. I don't have that quite handy.
Yeah, the orange color on the map is resurfacing, so that basically tells you that the grade is staying the same along Patton Avenue. Is that the question that's being asked?
Yeah, I think and more specifically, they're talking about the existing kind of slope of the road is what's maintained, but
Yeah, the existing grades of Patton are being maintained. Now we'll have a little bit of resurfacing of that same grade, but it's basically identical to what's out there now. Now, as you go across Bowen Bridges back on the other side, could you pan that way, if you don't mind? On the other side of the bridges, it shows. Yeah. Now, the roadway there is more of a straight shot into downtown. As you can see the existing road, it has crosshatched, and you can see the removal to the left there. Can y'all see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So far as looking down through there, the road is straightened up, and the grades are very similar to what they are now.
Is that the grade you were talking about on Patton?
Yeah, actually what I was trying to get a sense of is whether this rendering accurately reflects what you're gonna see underneath,
yes,
into downtown, underneath the bridge. That's what I was getting at, bro. Yeah.
I apologize.
So that's okay, that's
Took it in
fine.
a different direction.
That's fine, yeah.
Needed, but
And the point there is that it may affect possibly some of the recommendations we make, depending on what you see underneath that bridge as you go through that. Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, okay.
I think part of it, it's really difficult to look at the maps and see visualize what you might be seeing as you're driving east.
Right,
Sure.
As you're driving east and you get near Sam's Club, you may or may not be able to see the bridge because Patton goes down,
Right.
and it's hard to envision exactly where the bridge is going to come across unless you went into the model and took some shots, setting your camera at about 5 feet and just progressed it. Once you're, 20 feet from the bridge, you're going to see that, but how much you'll see as you're coming east, it's hard to visualize.
so initially the team submitted, and again, this is in the confidential portion of this, but this view here, which shows you a couple of those views, O&R has since reduced the length and the width of the structure, but the grade is basically the same. So this gives you an idea. This is further back.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
From context, this is about the intersection there.
Yeah.
Going at Sam's. You see in the outline of the city that's looking east.
Is the bridge that, oh, there it is.
So that's existing views, just to give you an idea.
Okay.
This is a little bit closer. Still looking east. And again, the bridge design has changed. It's narrower, it's shorter, but the height is the same. This is on the bridge, looking towards town. And this is coming back the other way. This is where you see the Earth Fair sign there.
Can you go back 2 slides, please?
That
This
one?
one. Is there a reason why the center median is concrete? Is it possible for it to be wider and with landscaping like the other ones were?
I think it's the width here. I think this one, without looking at the plan sheet, is
Well, it narrows up for the turn lanes right there.
Yeah,
Right on the
yeah.
intersection.
We have to have somebody turn it lanes for all.
I can go back to,
Yeah, it does narrow up for turn lanes there. So your through lanes are lined up, but it does narrow up.
I think generally in the project, we'd requested those areas to be river rock as opposed to the wide concrete slabs.
there's a stamping requirement in there. You can
Oh.
see,
Oh, so that's gonna be stamped in there?
I'm
Mhm.
remembering, I believe from the aesthetic guidelines, I think it's a stamp similar to
Yeah.
what's out Lister
Right.
Highway currently.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it'll match the existing.
Sure, and I think the level of
Stamp.
visualization stuff is maybe not picking up on that finer detail.
Okay, thank you.
You can see there the width, and you can see where it's really what you're doing is the planter width that you would have, or that median space, is really just for lane alignment.
Okay, but we can expect it to be colored and stamped.
Sure, and again, we'll confirm with the aesthetic guidelines, but that's what we'll have to. And I'm from memory, not having it directly in front of me. It's specified, I believe, to match what's out Western Highway. I think there's some pictures in the.
Great, appreciate that.
Nathan, you said this was confidential, this portion. What makes this particularly confidential?
This was confidential during.
Oh,
procurement.
okay.
That's when these were developed.
Right, okay, but no longer.
No longer.
Okay.
No. But the design has changed since then.
Yep.
But I was just kind of pointing to the fact that the ones we're looking at here are that snapshot of time when we were bound by confidentiality.
Yeah.
Can't be updated to direct design, because they're helpful, but you really can't tell where the image is shot from.
You can, and that's something we could talk to the team about doing. And this is an updated one. This is what we had. You're saying see something similar to that spacing.
Yeah, I mean, where is that crosswalk? I don't have any clue.
So that from a standpoint of location,
Yeah.
You're looking towards town at
Right.
the. Let me flip back to the map.
Is that the on and off ramp intersection?
Well, it's this intersection, which is the.
Yep, you're looking down the page, you're looking from basically that intersection you're pointing at towards downtown. And you see the bridge over top.
That's real close to the bridge.
Yes.
We got a multi-use path on the right, on what would be the right-hand side looking downtown,
Mhm.
side, left-hand side looking downtown.
Correct.
Yep.
And what can we expect for streetlights in that section?
So the interchange will be lighted from a roadway perspective. I think
Right.
from a pedestrian standpoint and under the bridge, I think that's something we're looking at the committee for guidance on.
And from where the new construction starts to the existing Bowen Bridge, other than underneath the bridge, how is that area all lit?
As far as the.
Nathan,
The roadway and the multi-use paths.
Go ahead, Mike.
the NCDOT prepared preliminary lighting plans, and there is lighting under that bridge. I'm sitting here, I can't tell you exactly what it looks like, but we could pull those plans out and show that to
Okay.
you.
I'm not talking just about underneath the bridge, but that whole section where they're
Yep.
where you're reconstructing Patent all the way to the Bowen Bridge.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, that
This-
whole section.
Can the public,
Jeremy King, are you still on the call?
Yeah, Mike, I'm still here.
Do you recall what that lighting looked like in those plans?
No, I don't recall what it looked like, but I do know we are required to install conduit along the multi-use path. But I'm not 100% sure on the lighting that is along those paths.
I believe from our previous discussions, there's no special lighting along the multi-use path. It's the street lighting from Patton Avenue that will light that path.
Right.
So-
I just want to make sure it is lit. In one of the plans that you sent ahead of time, it showed what it looked like to be tall mast lighting for that area, which I thought we had ruled out.
For the area in between the interchange and the Bowen Bridges.
Between Sam's Club and the Bowen Bridge, yes.
Is it a plan or was it one of the?
It was on one of the renderings you sent. I just want to make sure that the problem with the high mast lighting is, one, it is against the city's dark sky initiative, and two, it makes the whole area feel more suburban as opposed to an urban area. And we've really fought in the other areas to make sure that it was all this lower standard street light size as opposed to high mast area. I just wanted to double check that that the rendering was just, incorrect.
We'll confirm that with our lighting folks.
Okay.
Did I miss what the light
And
level
we-
under the bridge is? Is it 5-foot candles? I mean, is there a design for the lighting under the bridge as you're
Yeah, I think he said
traveling?
he'd have the bridge
Lighting
what it
under the
was,
bridge.
he said he'd have to,
I heard
find
another
that out.
reference that only the street lighting lit under the bridge, which didn't seem right.
yeah, I think that's what you said was, Michael, that there was some lighting under the bridge. We just have to check on that to get back about exactly what it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at a boatload of PDF files from the lighting plans now, and we need to check into that and see exactly what that looks like so we can make sure we are giving you guys the right information. That's all.
And we have a question here. I'm sorry, your
Mike,
name?
yeah, Mike.
Yeah, right.
Can we go back to that Patton streetscape with the crosswalk?
Visualization.
Yes, please. Visualization. So that crossing is like 100 feet, give or take.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the inclusion of a pedestrian refuge island.
That there isn't one?
There is not as current.
Well, it's not really shown as one, so.
Yeah, so then just thinking about that as it's related to the multi-use path, that's not gonna, that will obviously have pedestrian use, but it's also gonna have people using light mobilities, one-wheel scooters, cargo bikes, parents with carriages, that kind of thing. So the width of that for people who cannot make that span to have an appropriate refuge.
We can,
That makes sense.
It seems essential.
And the lighting plan, that's something that is open for review and discussion. for the
correct,
committee.
especially if there's something that comes from the committee specific to what lighting you would like to see